It's always the right time to do the right thing.
Enough is enough. The time is now.
All of Connecticut needs to show up because we've been talking about it and now it's time to be about it.
Good morning, Grand Rising, Queens and Kings, and thank you so much for joining Robyns Roundtable Talks today. And it is my tremendous honor to be hosting this special day, Andrea Barton Reeves. And Andrea is the phenomenal mind that has really brought together paid family medical leave. So I'd just like to start out by thanking you and your team, Andrea, for the wonderful job that you're doing and getting paid family medical leave up in the state of Connecticut.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it is our pleasure to do this work on behalf of the people of the state of Connecticut.
You're very welcome. And because others don't know you as well as I may, I'm going to go ahead and read you guys her bio, just to tell you a little bit about Andrea and her phenomenal work ethic and why we chose her to lead such an important program in the state of Connecticut. So Andrea, in a career dedicated to mission, advocates for improving the lives of those in need. She demonstrates consistent success in achieving holistic change and meaningful outcomes for individuals, families, and organizations. Andrea effectively and strategically leads complex organizations and engages a wide variety of stakeholders in meeting and exceeding expectations. Initially, Andrea successfully served as a civil litigator for large firms in New York and Connecticut. Following her passion for serving the underserved, Andrea then founded her own practice, dedicated exclusively to representing children in high conflict custody cases, child protection, and child delinquency matters. At the same time, Andrea was tapped to serve as Director for Program Operations at Lawyers for Children America. In that role, Andrea trained other attorneys to represent abused and neglected children. Through a series of fortuitous coincidences, Andrea was presented with the opportunity to serve a much larger underserved community, citizens with intellectual disabilities. Her unusual combinations of operational skills, strong legal background, and her demonstrated compassion attracted the attention of HARC Inc. In her dual role as in-house counsel and VP of Administration, Andrea lobbied for and won substantial pro bono legal services for the agency. In close cooperation with outside counsel, she achieved a complete redesign of the compliance program. Perceiving a need to improve the relationship between management and staff, Andrea encouraged frank discussions of issues with staff before grievances were filed. Consequently, the overall number of grievances were radically reduced, transforming HARC's culture. Having significantly improved operations and internal best practices, Andrea was invited by the board to serve as president and CEO. Currently, Andrea engages and empowers a highly effective 8-member executive team to ensure that the agency's goals are powerfully set and consistently met. Her accomplishments include raising $2 million per annum to help close the gap between government funding and the agency's financial needs. She develops and cultivates active partnerships with legislators, community activists, and stakeholders. and major funders to further support initiatives beneficial to citizens with intellectual disabilities. Andrea's ability to achieve superior results has been recognized by 2 governors, legislative leaders, and the disability and legal communities. In addition to appointments to a number of statewide boards and commissions, Andrea co-led a team of 16 subject matter experts. The team developed comprehensive policy recommendations for the governor, focused on effectively serving children and youth, veterans, and people with intellectual disabilities. In 2018, Andrea was elected president of the Connecticut Bar Foundation, the second woman and the first African American to serve as president in the foundation's 60-year history. In 2020, she was unanimously selected by the board of directors as the CEO of Connecticut's Paid Family Medical Leave Insurance Authority, charged with starting and administering one of the most comprehensive and generous paid family medical leave programs in the country. In 2021, she was named to the Harvard Business Journal's Power 25 in Healthcare in 2021, and one of the 100 most influential Blacks in Connecticut by the Connecticut NAACP. So you all can see why we chose Andrea. And Andrea, I will get right to it because I know you are a very busy woman. But salute to you, Queen, on this day and every day.
Thank you. It was very kind of you to read all of that. And at one point, I'm like, please.
Well, you know,
we're good.
There's no skating around those accomplishments, you know, and I believe in singing the praises of women and especially Black women. So I thank you for all that you've done and all that you continue to do. And we're going to get right into our talk today about Connecticut's paid family medical leave. What can you talk about the passage of the act that created the paid family medical leave program? What is Connecticut paid leave?
Well, it is Public Act 19-25, and it's one of my favorite laws ever. And of course, you, Ms. Queen, as co-chair of the Labor Committee, you were a driving force in making this possible. And what it means is that people who take family and medical leave, which has been available in the state since 1996 at the state and federal level, can now take that leave earlier in their work tenure. And they can take it for people who they consider family. And they can also take it and get wage replacement so that they don't have to worry about whether or not they need to take care of someone they love, take care of themselves, and worry about losing their job or losing their wages while they're taking care of themselves or their families. It is transformative, which is why I love to do the work that I do, because it will change so many people's lives.
That it is indeed. It is transformative and so much needed right now during this pandemic that we're currently, I would say, making our way out of. But that takes me to my second question for you today. Is paid family medical leave the same as family medical leave?
It is not the same, and this is where people get confused, and it is confusing. So as I mentioned earlier, family and medical leave is a leave program that has existed at the state and federal level since 1996. And under those laws, you have to work for your employer for a certain amount of time. You have to work for that employer for a certain number of hours. It's usually 1,250 hours. It's up to a year you have to work for that employer. And then you can take time off to take care of yourself or a family member. But the family members you can take care of are limited. The reasons you can take it are limited, and it's not paid. So unless you have saved up vacation or other kinds of leave that your employer offers you, you could take the leave, but you were pretty much on your own as to how you were going to replace your income while you were out. Now, when the law changes next month, we will still have family and medical leave. But now you'll be able to come to the Paid Leave Authority and apply for a benefit so you can have wage replacement while you take your family and medical leave. So family and medical leave is also going to change next year, and you won't have to work 1,000 hours in a whole year before you can get access to take care of yourself. You can work 3 months, and there's no hours worked requirement anymore. And this also is a game changer, especially for a lot of our folks who are working 2 and 3 jobs and never get up to 1,000 hours with one particular employer. this will make it a much more even playing field for a lot of people.
And that's great news for the workers, especially low-wage workers in the state of Connecticut. This is so exciting. So tell us, who can participate in the paid family medical leave program?
Just about anyone can participate. There are some categories of employers that are exempted. Some of them include some state of Connecticut workers, federal workers, some folks that work in private schools. But for the most part, most people can participate in the paid leave program. And it applies to employers that have one or more employees, and that also includes private employers that have unionized workforces. So it's all encompassing, which means a lot of folks are going to be able to contribute to it, which they're doing now, but a lot of folks will also be able to participate. Now, if you're a business owner, and I know our folks are entrepreneurs, and I'll tell you why, because right now I'm in New Jersey and I was driving down to see my god sister, and somebody had up a little tent, was selling peach cobbler in case you forgot your dessert on the way to your Thanksgiving dinner. So I know our folks are entrepreneurial. So if you're a sole proprietor, you're
Yes, yes.
that's a great idea. Then you have the option of registering and opting in. But if you do so, you have to stay in for 3 years. But running your own thing can really be a challenge. So this gives you a little bit more security too.
Absolutely. And that is certainly one thing this pandemic has birthed. Many more entrepreneurs, which is a great thing, because we know that small business is what drives the economy. And with that being said, how are the paid family medical leave benefits funded? Can you talk about that?
Yes, certainly. So they are funded by 0.5% of wages from everybody's paycheck that goes into a paid leave trust fund that is managed by the Office of the Treasurer. Right now, that fund has a little over $300 million in it, and benefits will start to be paid in January. So as folks have been contributing, we have over 122,000 employers who have registered with the Paid Leave Authority and have been collecting that 0.5% and from their workers and depositing it into the trust fund. So I can't thank everybody enough who has been contributing to the fund so that everyone who's participating can have that financial security when they're ready to take some time to take care of themselves or someone they love.
Absolutely. And I do agree with you on that. It is so important. We make many sacrifices, and it's a small sacrifice that we make when we all contribute to make sure that everyone who is in need has what they need, and they're actually able to take care of themselves, their loved ones, military, family, and etc. So we're on our way. We're on our way. One of the most progressive and comprehensive paid leave programs in the United States. So for that, I'm very proud to have played a role in making sure that this gets done. And I'm very proud to have you getting it up on its legs and walking this baby out that front door so we can run with this, because it is something that is so needed. We know that. So what are some of the qualifying reasons that someone can apply for paid family medical leave benefits?
Sure, there are a number of reasons. You can take leave to care for your own serious health condition, and you can take it to care for someone in your family who has a serious health condition. You can take it if you are the victim of domestic violence, because our state, and this is unique to our state has a Family Violence Leave Act that permits up to 12 days of leave if you are a victim of domestic violence. And normally you wouldn't be paid for those times, but now you can apply to the Paid Leave Authority for those days that you need to take off to secure shelter, go to court, all the things that are attendant to having been impacted by family violence. You can take it to become a organ or bone marrow donor, because a lot of our folks really need that to happen for them. And for our military families, there is what's known as qualifying exigency leave. So if you are deployed overseas, your family member can take time off to help you put things in order, childcare, insurance, all the things, our banking, all the things that we need to take care of when our folks are deployed and serving our country. And also, if you've been injured during active duty, we do have the military caregiver leave so that your family member can take time off, up to 12 weeks of paid leave, to take care of you if you've been injured in service to our country. So those are the primary reasons that you can take family and medical leave. And they are, many people react very positively to those reasons.
Of course. And I mean,
Mm,
as a domestic violence survivor, I can't even begin to tell you how important that is. And I'm so glad that Connecticut is unique, but I'm hoping that we will also be leaders there where other states will follow, especially with this pandemic and the impact that it has had on increasing domestic violence incidents. So
yes,
that's a very important fact to mention. And I hope that those that are in need of those services will not hesitate to take advantage when this becomes available. So
agree,
tell
agree.
me, and you touched on it a little bit, but can
Mm.
can can you talk about who participates in the paid family medical leave program? Can you participate if you're a self-employed or a sole proprietor?
You certainly can. The difference between employees who participate in the plan and those that are self-employed and sole proprietors is that there's a residency requirement for those who are self-employed and sole proprietors. You do have to be a resident of the state of Connecticut to participate in the plan if you're a sole proprietor or a self-employed individual. If you're an employee, and because you mentioned the pandemic when we started, and you might be working outside of the state remotely, but your employer is a Connecticut employer and they are paying into your unemployment and they're paying your payroll taxes in the state, you're still considered an employee working in the state of Connecticut, and you can contribute to the plan and then you can participate in the plan. But it's very wide ranging, and there are very few categories of employers who are not included. That would include municipalities and local or regional boards of education. But even then, if their bargaining units agree to participate in the plan, then
Hmm.
everyone in those workforces can participate in the plan too, whether they're in the bargaining unit or not, which really gives a lot of people some peace of mind if that choice is made by that particular workplace.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yes. So, how do I know if I'm eligible for paid family medical leave benefits?
Well, the first thing you want to you want to do is check with your employer to make sure that you're working for an employer that can participate in the plan. So let's say you're working for a municipality and they haven't voted to include themselves, then you might not be. But let's assume you're working for an employer that is. Then you will go to your employer and you would apply for family and medical leave, and then you would go to the paid leave authority, which is where I work, and you'd apply for your benefit. And then we'll tell you, are you having major surgery? Are you getting ready to have a baby? Is someone getting ready to be deployed overseas? If you fit into one of those categories of reasons that I mentioned for taking
Hmm.
time, then you make your application. If you qualify, then you're good. To qualify, you have to make $2,325 in the highest earning quarter of the last 5 completed quarters that you've worked, and which is not a high barrier for a lot of folks to meet. So it makes it very accessible for a lot of people. And then you have to have a reason for leave, and you have to have applied to get the time off with your employer. And then that's basically it. And you show up with your paperwork, and we approve it, and then you're on your way. So it's actually very accessible, and we're really glad that more people will have a chance to take advantage of this really great benefit.
Yes, indeed. And, as myself and Senator Kushner were drafting and crafting the language of this piece of legislation, we made sure that it would include, our minimum wage workers because they are oftentimes the ones that don't have access to these type of benefits. And we wanted to make sure that if they needed to take this time off, that they would be made as whole as possible. And I know we'll get to that soon. So my next question is this: do I have to be a full-time employee to have access to paid family medical leave here in Connecticut?
You do not. You saw I was anxious to answer that question. No, you don't have to be a full-time employee. And that's one of the beauties of this law is that if you're working for an employer who's included in the plan and you're making your contributions, you can have multiple employers. And we know many folks do have multiple employers. And it's one of the reasons that they couldn't qualify for a traditional FMLA because they
Hmm.
could never get enough hours. A
Right.
1,000 hours for one employer is a lot of hours. And you could never get enough under one employer to qualify, but now you can. So no, you could work 3 part-time jobs if you do, and it doesn't matter as long as you've worked for that employer for those 3 months. You have the job protection, and that's really what's important. And we'll talk a little bit about that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you actually kind of, you know, took a step in direction that I'm going. You mentioned about you don't have to have you can have more than one job. And that was my next question. So, what if I'm someone, and most people do, unfortunately, have more than one job? What happens if I have more than one job?
If you have more than one job, you're contributing that 0.5% from each job that you have. But in the paid leave authority, we have a mechanism that counts how much you've contributed so you don't over contribute. And if you have, then we also have a way of refunding that money to you.
Okay.
So that's on the paid leave side. On the FMLA side, if you have more than one job, then you're coordinating that with your employers, but no one can tell you that you don't have the right to take it, because you do. This is what's new, especially for small employers who may not be familiar with family medical leave. It's an entitlement. And once you meet the law's qualifications, your employer can't tell you that you can't take it. And we're getting a lot of those questions. The other thing you should know about FMLA is that when the law changes in January, you have job protection after you've worked for your employer for 3 months. And that means when you take your FMLA, you're entitled to get your job back. Same pay, same benefits, same shift you were working, same everything. You get your job back. And it is illegal for your employer to offer you something else unless your job has absolutely been eliminated, and that you can work out with them. But that's also the exciting part about taking the family and medical leave and then getting the wage replacement. So you have the security of getting your job back, and you have the security of wage replacement. It makes a big difference in people's lives.
Oh my gosh. It goes a very long way, a very long way. We know that people will go to work sick, make other folks sick. And we saw this at the height of the pandemic.
Yes.
And, we really wish that this had been in place, but, it's coming. January 1, 2022 is right around the corner.
That's
so
right.
People will have the entitlement of full security, as you stated, security with their job, their position, title, and pay, as well as, a wage replacement to help them get through this rough time.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, there's been a lot of questions around family, because we did something really different with this law when it came to family.
Mm.
So can you tell me who is considered family under the paid family medical leave law?
Yes. So the family and medical leave law will change so that we have something known as related by affinity. So the traditional family members that we think of, our spouses, our siblings, our grandparents, and so on, they weren't necessarily included under the Family and Medical Leave Act as people you could take time off for to care for. So if you were to take FMLA today, you could take it for yourself, for your spouse, in Connecticut, for your parents or your in-laws, for your child if they're under 18, if they're over 18, if they have a disability. And that's it. So if your grandma or your auntie or someone else was very sick and you were in let's say the group of people to take care of them today, you would not be permitted to do that under FMLA protection. When the law changes next year, there will be a very expansive definition of family, and it will include anyone that you consider family as defined under the statute. And that is expanded to include grandparents and grandchildren and siblings and children of any age, as well as the relationships that I mentioned earlier of spouses and parents and in-laws. So this will be a much bigger group of people. So if you've been living with your significant other for the last 20 years and you've raised children together and you own property and you're beneficiaries on one another's life insurance policies, but you've not been able to take time off to care for him or her because you're not legally married, that changes starting next year. And that is, I think, that's going to be, it will help people to care for people they consider family rather than the law telling them who their family is.
Amen. And that goes a long way. And, we were pressed on making sure that happened and expanding that definition because we realized, that family has changed. And for us, family has always been, not necessarily blood. It's relationships. Right. So it's familial relationships. And we wanted to make sure that was reflected in the bill because, we have aunties and uncles in our families that are not actually blood aunties and uncles, but they are people that we love and we care for. And if that is the case, as you stated, they would be covered under the paid family medical leave. So I thank you for getting into that because that's been a question that I've gotten a lot. because it is something different, but it is also something very much needed. And I'm glad we were able to get that done.
Yes.
So, let's get to the good stuff because, people talking about, oh, I can be off and get paid and while I'm taking care of myself or a family member or, after I've had a baby. Well, how much will someone receive if they are approved for paid family medical benefits? Is it capped? Is there a way to see an estimate of how much a person might receive in benefits?
So the answer is yes to all of those questions. So for the first one. So the first one is yes, you will receive some form of wage replacement, but by statute, it really depends on how much you're making. If you're making at or below minimum wage, then you will receive 95% of your base weekly earnings. And that formula is pretty simple. If you make above minimum wage, the statutory formula is a bit more complex. But under no circumstances will anyone receive more than 60 times whatever the prevailing minimum wage is. So right now, that means you couldn't get more than $780 a week. But if you have an employer that offers you short-term disability or you have some paid time off that you can use to supplement that, then you can get yourself closer to that 100% if you have those benefits that are available to you. Now, the benefits are available for up to 12 weeks. And that is usually taken in blocks of time, but some folks also take what's known as intermittent leave. So let's say that they're getting dialysis treatments or they're taking someone else to get their dialysis treatment. That isn't usually something that's taken all day, every day. Right. And under those circumstances, you can take it as intermittent leave, where you go for a few hours, a couple days a week. And then if you're able to work the rest of the time, then you would be working the rest of the time. And so there is a cap, as I mentioned. And there is a certain number of weeks that you can take it. You don't have to take all your weeks at once. You can't take it intermittently. You can also take it under what's known as a reduced schedule. So if you normally work a 40-hour week, but now you need to work let's say a 20-hour week because you need to spend the other 20 hours taking your grandma right back and forth to her dialysis treatment, you can certainly do that too. And then you can apply to the payment authority for the 20 hours that you're not getting paid because you're giving care. Now, no, it is, and I've heard this a lot, it is not a vacation. It's not time for people to just take time off. You really have to give us a lot of proof that that is what you're doing. And we will be checking in periodically to make sure that you're using your leave in the way that it's been medically certified. And if you're not, our statute has penalties built into it that allow us to get that money back and do what we need to do to make sure that the fund remains solvent and that you're using everybody else's paycheck money the way that it's supposed to be used. So we're trying to run the fund with as much integrity as we possibly can.
Absolutely. There must be checks and balances and a high level of accountability because this fund is actually 100% funded by the employees, the workers.
That's right.
So we take extra care in making sure that these dollars are allocated appropriately.
Correct.
And as you was talking, a question came to mind because I actually have a niece, one of my best friend's daughters. She's pregnant and due in March. So we've been talking about this. And I know that you stated that we could get up to 12 weeks. But what happens if, during the pregnancy and postpartum, there's some complications? Can you talk about the extra time off that women who are pregnant and may run into complications post-pregnancy can look forward to?
Yes. So there is an additional 2 weeks that's available if you're experiencing complications. Now, this is interesting, reporter, because you and I might have to talk about this because the statute says during pregnancy, right? So we've been going back and forth with the Department of Labor. It's like, can you use it after you give birth? Can you only use it while you're pregnant? But right now, the statute does say during pregnancy. But let's just say that you're 6 or 7 months in, and then there's a bit of an issue, and your doctor says that you need to get some rest, or you need to be on bed rest for 2 weeks. Now you need 14 weeks of leave. You can certainly get those 14 weeks of leave during that time period. You certainly can, with the right certification with your doctor.
That's great news. Great news, because unfortunately there are those times when people run into complications during pregnancy.
That's right.
And we will most certainly get that. We will get that straight. So you touched on this a little bit, and I think that you covered it. I was wondering around, what if my employer offers other paid time off benefits or short-term disability, I know that we can still get paid family medical leave benefits, but how does that interplay with the paid family medical leave benefit?
So it all depends on what your employer offers. If, for example, you've not worked for your employer long enough, you have job protection, but you don't have enough time to take off, then you can come to the paid leave authority and get paid for the entirety of the time that you're away. Right. And it also depends on other circumstances. So let's say you've been working there a bit longer and your employer says you have to use your time off first. And then if you don't have enough time, you can use other benefits, including the paid leave benefit, to make up the difference so that you're not going weeks without pay, because that's really not the purpose of paid leave. Your employer can, in fact, require you to use whatever time you've accrued, but you are entitled to keep up to 2 weeks of that time that you've accrued. And we know this because with the previous law, your employer could require you to exhaust all of your leave. And then when the time came for you to take time, let's say to go to a wedding or a graduation or a dream vacation with your family, you were stuck either having to take that time unpaid or you were not permitted to go. And there were just too many stories like that. So now people have to be able to keep their 2 weeks of leave. But you can do that. So it depends on what your short-term disability policy says for your employer. But you can certainly combine those benefits to get a maximum number of dollars out while you're away, for the time that you're out.
Yes, thank you for that. And I think that is truly one of the beauties of this act, that it allows us to do that. So, the $1 million question, Andrea, when can I apply for these benefits?
Oh, yes, that is the $1 million question. And the answer is Wednesday, December 1st. So it's right around the corner. We wanted, and we learned from other states. I have to say that our sister states who have already implemented paid family and medical leave have been enormously helpful to us. And one of the things that they've told us is, without question, if you can open the application process sometime earlier than the benefits payable month, then that's what you should do. And so we were able to do that. We have a fantastic partner. We're working with AFLAC. They have got this thing stood up in 6 months. And on Wednesday, they will be taking calls, emails, faxes, mail. There are 5 ways that you can apply, not just one. And if you go onto our website, ctpaidleave.org, you will find the ways that you can apply for your paid leave benefit. And then payments start in January.
Wow. Well, you certainly answered my next question. How do we apply?
Yes.
So once again, you go to
www.ctpaidleave.org, and you will see, starting probably, I'm going to say on Tuesday the 30th, we're going to have it right up front, prominent on our site. Click here to apply for your paid leave benefit, and you'll be able to go in, create an account to secure your information, because you're going to be putting things in there like your social security number and your health information. So we're asking people to be a bit patient with that upfront process, because it's there for your security. But once you've done that, you'll have a user ID and a password that you can go in at any time and see what the status of your claim is. And that will start on Wednesday, December 1st.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that you and I talked about that, and it is a pretty cumbersome process. But as you stated, and I want to reiterate that this is definitely for the protection of people's privacy and their private and medical information. So please be patient as you go in on the front end of this to get the application started, because once you do, the process will have a much smoother flow. So we talked about how we apply, and when can we start applying. But I know that there are a lot of small businesses, in Connecticut that don't actually have the bandwidth that our big corporations do. So I wanted to ask you, if I'm an employer, what do I need to do when an employee applies for paid family medical leave benefits?
Yes. So you will hopefully have to do very little. On the paid leave benefit side, the heavier lift for employers is going to be the changes to the Family and Medical Leave Act, because now it will apply to 1 or more employees. What we've been doing at the Paid Medical Leave Authority is really trying to educate those small businesses. And let me more clearly define those. Those are businesses that have 74 or fewer employees. Because if you had 75 or more employees, you already know about family and medical leave because you've been doing this for a minute. But if you're smaller than that, this is going to be all new to you. So we have a couple of things on our website that will be helpful to you. There's an employer section, and there's a section for small businesses. So you can go on that small business section of the site, and it will walk you step by step. And we have a human resources toolkit, and we have an employer guide that will tell you everything that you need to know. When your employee comes to you and says, I need family and medical leave, that guide will walk you step by step as to what you're supposed to do. And then when they have paid leave, it will also give you some guidance as to what it is that you need to do. And in addition to that, we have 3 small business specialists that we've hired at the Paid Leave Authority. Not enough people, I realize that, but as you said, we're entirely funded by folks' paycheck money. So we're very cognizant and careful as to how we spend. We didn't hire, a whole bunch of people. There's only 23 of us that work at this state agency. But these 3 people are so qualified. And as the questions come in, we will take the time to meet and talk with those employers or get back to them by email to give them the guidance that they need, along with our partners at the Department of Labor.
Yes. And I love that commitment. That is very important. So next question. How far in advance should a person apply for paid family medical leave benefits? I stated that I have a good friend, whose daughter, my niece, is pregnant and expecting in March, but we know that you can actually start the application December 1. Someone like my girlfriend's daughter look to apply.
Yes. So if you know that you need to take leave, you should apply 30 days in advance of the time that you'll need to take the leave. You can apply a bit earlier, but 30 days is really the ideal window because you don't want your medical certifications to expire before you actually need to take the leave. And those have a very short expiration date. If you don't know that you'll need the leave, then the law says you need to apply as soon as practicable because things happen to us. We may get appendicitis or break our leg or something may happen and you end up in the hospital. You're not going to know for some period of time whether or not you're going to need that paid leave. But as soon as you know, you should apply.
Thank you. That is great to know. And I'm sure she'll be listening to this, but I will also convey that message. Now, tell me, how are paid family medical leave benefits paid?
Yeah, so they are paid. They are calculated to be paid weekly. We pay 2 weeks in arrears, and they are paid either directly to your bank account or on what's known as a stored value or a debit card. And we do this for 2 reasons. One of the things that you mentioned earlier is maintaining the integrity of the fund. What we've learned from other states is that when you have that 2-week window, sometimes you can catch folks who are applying for benefits who shouldn't be getting them. And so that gives you a 2-week window to sort of pull that payment back if you determine that that person should not be receiving the benefit. And if they do, if they are receiving the benefit, then storing it on the debit card or putting it directly into someone's account means that they're getting that money faster. There's no lost checks. There's no one taking the check out of your mailbox and trying to cash it. None of the things that go on with so it helps to reduce the instances of fraud that might occur. And that's really why we have that. I know some folks are going to feel, as we say, some kind of way about that 2-week window, but we've learned that is what we need to do in order to make sure there's enough money available for everyone, because we don't want anybody taking what they shouldn't be getting from the fund.
Absolutely.
And we want the fund to be available for those who've paid into it and have a legitimate need for that benefit.
Absolutely. Solvency is absolutely key. And we do want to make sure that the people that are in need and qualify for the benefit actually have those funds available. So I'm really happy to see the checks and balances in place. Now, let's go back to pregnancy. I have another question for you. What if someone has a baby or a serious health condition this year, right, in 2021, but wants to take leave in 2022? Can they apply for paid family medical leave benefits?
Yes, they can. They certainly can. It's what we call an in-flight claim. So let's say you apply for your family and medical leave benefit in December, and you know it's going to bridge over into 2021. That's one example. You can certainly apply, but you'll only get the benefit when the law actually changes next year. So if you've already taken 4 weeks of your leave, you're only going to get, the weeks that are available to you, the remaining 8 in December. But if you've already started and you want to apply for your leave for the rest of the time, you can absolutely do that. And if you meet the entitlement standards, then you'll get that leave and you'll be able to take it.
Wow, that's awesome. It makes me think about, 28 years ago when I had my daughter. She was born
Mm,
premature, and she was in the NICU for 2.5 months, and
wow.
then came home and got RSV,
Mm,
which was a respiratory virus that a lot of preemie babies get because their lungs are undeveloped, and ended up back in ICU for another 2 weeks. So what I had to do, because I only got 6 weeks off with the employer I was working for, I actually worked the whole time she was in intensive care, and then took my maternity leave once she was discharged from the hospital. So with the way this is working, I think that's awesome, because if you have instances like that where you have situations where you're going to need to care for a child or a family member, you can kind of break that out and take it when you want to take it and when you deem it's necessary. So
that's right. That's right.
that's an awesome
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
So I know we're going to wrap up here, and I just wanted to kind of leave it for folks, right? How can
Yes.
employers and employees find out more about Connecticut paid family medical leave if they have questions that we haven't covered here today? Is there somewhere they can go for more
Yes.
detailed information?
Yes, the best place to go is to our website, which is ctpaidleave.org. We wanted to make the address simple, and we wanted to make the website as accessible and as easy to navigate as possible. You will find all kinds of things there. Virtually everything I've talked about today, you can find on that site. There is even a benefits calculator that you can find. You'd asked me earlier, how will I know how much I'm getting? There's a benefits calculator on the site. Well, if you go into the employee section, that will give you a very rough estimate of how much you might get. There's lots of other factors that will affect the actual number that you might receive. But if you wanted a
Mm-hmm.
general idea, you could go there and get it. And it tells you all the steps, what the qualifying reasons are, all the things that you need to be able to put in place, all the documentation you're going to need. It's just a full range of information that you can get. And it's all there, ctpaidleave.org.
Wow. This is exciting. It's that baby we've been birthing, and the baby's here,
That's right.
it's coming at a really, really critical time, because we know the COVID-19 crisis, highlights the need for comprehensive paid leave, and that the majority of essential workers, who are the workers that have been on the front line from day one, are disproportionately women and people of color, and they are
Absolutely.
significantly less likely to have access to paid leave through their employers. So, Connecticut's absence of a fully operating paid leave program during the pandemic, as well as gaps in the federal relief laws, forces workers to risk their own health and the health of their families to earn a paycheck and keep the economy running. And it just gives me so much, I don't even have a word for it. I can't even say pleasure, because it's so much more than that we are going to be starting on January 1, giving people the security that they need, not only in pay, but also in job security, which is something really critical right now. And I'm glad to say that, the Connecticut voters overwhelmingly supported this program, and that, this program, as you said, Public Act 19-25,
That's right.
supports workers, and it will boost Connecticut's economy. It will improve worker retention, and it will also help the people who have shouldered the most severe social and economic impacts of COVID-19 crisis and are leaving the workforce at alarming rates. I really believe that this is going to help bring workers back, and provide them the sustainability that they need coming out of this pandemic. So I just want to reiterate too, because I'm really excited about it, that the law covers workers at employers of one or more, and will provide job protection to all workers regardless of employer size, and that self-employed workers can opt into the program. And the bill's definition of family is also one of the strongest in the country, and covers chosen families, which is critical to the LGBTQ plus community. So thank you so much, Andrea, for taking the time to be with us this morning on Robyns Roundtable Talks. This was a critical conversation to have at a critical time, because in less than a week, we will start accepting applications, and then in another month, we will start paying out. So any closing words you have for the workers and the employers in the state of Connecticut?
Yes, and those closing words are thank you. Thank you, thank you. You've helped us to stand up the Paid Leave Authority in record time in the midst of a pandemic. And I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been when there were so many pulls on you from so many different directions, so many competing interests, including just keeping your doors open. But I said 122, it's 123,000 businesses that have registered, and thousands of employees who have contributed to this plan. And we are so pleased and grateful to have the opportunity to be of service to the people of Connecticut. So on behalf of all of us at the Paid Leave Authority, thank you very, very much to everyone in the state who's made paid family and medical leave possible and real for our citizens in the state of Connecticut.
And with that, I'm going to say ditto to you and your team, Andrea, because those are the sentiments that I would like to express to you all. Thank you. Thank you for helping to bring the manifestation of something that we've been working on for a very long time to life. And in bringing it to life, we will give life. We will give life. And that is what is so exciting about this. So I will say to my audience, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for tuning in, and I will ask that you please share this critical information with each and every person that you come in contact with. Tell them about Connecticut's paid family medical program and how progressive it is and how it is one of the most expansive in the country right now. Why? Because we believe in taking care of those who take care of us. You matter, and we made sure we did more than talk about it. We did something about it. So thank you again, Andrea, for being with us this morning. And we will close out on that note. I wish everyone a very blessed day and a tremendous, tremendous holiday season.
Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm tired of the talking. It's time to walk it. It's time to be about it. And frankly, I can't believe what they're saying because I see what they're doing. And it's time for us to do something different in this state.